When I started this organization back in 2014, I wanted to be very clear about our objective: economic justice for people of color. I'm not interested in diversity for the sake of diversity or in STEM education for the sake of STEM education. I want to be very clear about our why. So our why never changes. Our what sometimes changes, and our how should change constantly. Now, we also had certain cultural objectives. We wanted to participate in a culture of self-disruption and endless pursuit of better. We wanted to be rigorously student-centric. We had a vision of training as an act of liberation, avoiding potentially oppressive constructs that you often see in both education and the workplace. Now, I feel like today this sounds like an easy thing to agree to. It wasn't back then. Our first round of funding was very hard. Funders didn't want to touch us for these reasons. Imagine telling a funder that we wanted to maintain a culture of constant self-disruption, that we're going to experiment. The thing is, when you use the word experiment, what you're doing is you're admitting that you're going to fail sometimes. Not everybody's comfortable with this. And so they would ask me, when will you arrive at the model? And the answer was never. We will never arrive at the model. Imagine telling this to most funders at the time. But what this did is it filtered out for the right funders, those who are ready for bold action, who understand that boldness is just a gentler word for risky and unpopular. We wanted to work with folks who are comfortable with discomfort, who are ready to normalize failure, and who are ready to reject the concept of failure as taboo. Most of these funders have stuck with us through hell and high water. And this has allowed us to have a culture of transparency, which engenders a culture of mutual trust. This is what I mean. This is what I mean when I talk about coalition. Coalition doesn't mean co-signing with the stuff that you already agree with. It means putting some skin in the game. It means suffering the losses together and celebrating the wins together. Everything we've ever done at Resilient Coders, both well and poorly, has been done in coalition. And I have to say, we've done so much more than put people in jobs. I like to believe that we have made an impact on culture in our small way. I think that we have collectively, together, influenced the culture of philanthropy. It is more coalition-oriented now. It is more trust-based. So anything that you could ever call courageous hinges on trust. And I like to think that we have participated in this transformation together. I'd like to believe that we have also impacted the culture of workforce development. We have proven that it's possible to have a rigorously worker-centric model. We've proven that it's possible to turn down bad employers and toxic jobs. We've proven that you don't need a bachelor's degree to earn high salaries. We've proven out a culture that is predicated on advocacy, transparency, truth. And yeah, workforce development has miles to go. But I'm filled with hope. We've been a lot of different things here. Resilient Coders has been at least 6 different things. We've had at least 5 major pivots in our efforts to be student-centric, and we are pivoting again in this year. We're doubling our stipends. We're providing more supports for students on staff. We're making our lectures more accessible so that people can revisit them. But our programmatic transformations are only made possible by our cultural transformations. When I started this organization, I wrote myself a letter. I know that's cheesy, but I said, may Resilient Coders prove to be bigger than its founder. And I'm not just talking about the business. I'm talking about the ethos, the culture that we represent. Today, we have hundreds of alumni. We have 10 members of staff. We have 6 board members. And every single one of these individuals understands viscerally what Resilient Coders is supposed to be, even when, and maybe especially when, we fall short of being what we are supposed to be. Once upon a time, the torchbearer of what this organization is supposed to be was me. It was one person. But that's not the case anymore. And this is why I've decided that this organization will not only survive, but thrive after I have stepped down as our executive director at the end of this year. Resilient Coders has arrived at a point at which we don't need a starter. We need a builder. It's different. The skill sets are different from my own. And to those of you who have been with us through our twists and our turns, through hell and high water, I am calling on you again to show up for Resilient Coders in a pivotal moment. Please consider giving if giving is appropriate for you. Give in celebration of what we've already accomplished together. Give as a way of exercising your commitment to the work that we do and to the people who do it. Give as an expression of joy. Now, you all know that I don't like talking about metrics and about the business without talking about human beings, because at the end of the day, that's what we do. And so I want to start closing out with a short story. We had a student once upon a time who was going through an eviction process with his family. And, we coached him through this, and we sat down with him, and he said, look, none of this is even real until you get the piece of paper. When you get the document, you get the piece of paper that you have been served, that's when we can really begin this process together. And so let's hold out until we get it. And so one day I came into the office early, and he was there. He was alone in the classroom. He was sitting at his desk, and he had in front of him a folded piece of paper, a single piece of paper. And he looked at me and he said, I just wanted you to come in and look at this piece of paper with me. And so I walked over and I looked at the piece of paper, and it was a job offer. It was a job offer. I can sit here and tell you about the curriculum and the syllabus and what we do and how we do it, but at the end of the day, that's what we do. That's what we do. That's what we're about. Listen, for some of you, this might be the last time that I talk to you as the executive director of Resilient Coders. So let me end with an expression of gratitude. One of our alumni after demo day, when everyone had presented their work and it had gone well, we had a moment of reflection. And one person just said, we just did that. And so let me just say to all of you among friends, we just did that. From the bottom of my heart, thank you.